Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Presentation of Journal Proceedings. We have a motion to approve the Committee of the Whole minutes from October 13, 2021. Is there a motion?
Roll call first.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, roll call. Sorry.
Alderman Johnson. Alderman Fairwell.
Here.
Alderman Rita.
Here.
Alderman Montoya.
Here.
Alderman McGee. Alderman Carr. Alderman Roll.
Here.
5 are here, Your Honor.
All right. Now, presentation of Journal Proceedings. Motion for Committee of the Whole minutes from October 13, 2021. Is a motion. Alderman McGee, second by Alderman Roll. Any questions? Alderman Fairwell?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we got a problem here. These minutes tonight are an embarrassment to the city of Blue Island. There are so many mistakes, grammatical errors, spelling, sentences that are incomplete. Last night, I know that we had received new minutes that corrected a number of errors. This is not acceptable. I'm not going to sit here and correct these minutes. They need to come back correct. And I know that the person who's doing this is paid extraordinarily well, has a position of high responsibility, and this indicates a high level of sloppiness. I would suggest that you look at this whole situation as a whole piece of problem that you need to think about. I would like to move to table these minutes.
We can table. Any opposition, we can table. All right, we'll move that to the next agenda. And public comment?
My name is John Dunleavy from Affordable Recovery Housing, 13811 Southwestern. I'm giving you an update on, we finally got our inspection on the 20th of this month. It took them almost 2 weeks to complete the inspection report. And when they got them done, it was on Tuesday. We were supposed to get the inspection reports right then, but it went up to the mayor's office. And for further review is what Mr. Wogan said, it was for further review. Then on Friday, I went and asked for the inspection report. Mr. Pataska said he was going to have me arrested for raising my voice. All I want is the inspection report. Why does it have to go to the mayor's office for further review? Does all inspection reports go to further review? And if it's a 3 week, if there was such emergency or for anything over at Mother of Sorrows, it's taken 3 weeks to get the inspection report. There is no issue. But we completed it. Also, Mr. What's his name? Wogan said today, he kicked me out of the building department. He's saying I'm harassing. All I'm asking for is the inspection report. Just hand them to us. The inspection report, something don't pass a smell test when it has to go up to the mayor's office. That's all I have. I'm just giving you an update.
If not, move on to new business. Perk engineering presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to give an overview of some of the projects that we have been working on and are looking forward to in 2022. So nice and informal. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me or ask questions as we're going through. So one of the most notable projects that we've been working on, and maybe you guys have seen, is the Citywide LED Upgrade project. H&H has been out replacing the lamps throughout the city. So far, 566 fixtures have been converted. And this is a ComEd-based program, so they're going to be providing the majority of the funding. That's $182,000 from ComEd, and the contract total amount is about $222,000. So that's a H&H contract amount of just about $40,000 out of pocket, and then the savings to the city will be just over $27,000 each year. So in less than a year and a half or so, that project will basically pay for itself. So we're also going to look at doing additional upgrades on 127th Street and Western Avenue both. As you know, those are not in our jurisdiction, so that'll be a little more require a little more coordination, but that's a proposal for next year. Any questions about the lighting?
I asked for the 127th and Western to be quoted out also for the following year because this grant comment wasn't going to include state roads because they said it's IDOT's problem. And I think with the incidents on 127th Street, especially in Western Avenue, to look into see what that cost would be.
Absolutely. So another utility that we've been looking at is the water meters. A lot of the technology that the water meters in the city is old and outdated. Currently, right now, staff time, it takes a lot of staff time to go out and read the meters. So we're looking at various options to upgrade those meters. Most of it's radio-based technology. One would allow a driver to drive around and be able to collect the data from the meters itself. Second type of technology would be based on the water towers in the city, which collect it remotely. And then a third type would be essentially automated for all those purposes. So that's all in the works. Similar to there, we've been working with the administration on the IDNR. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources has been looking to reallocate water for all of the communities that use Lake Michigan water. So it's very important to make sure that we have clean drinking water for the future. So right now they're projecting to bring those levels down for the city and without any numbers for future development. That's likely to happen. So we have made sure with the IDNR that there is a process should developments come in or should something come in town that we need to upgrade that it is able to be done. So those are the two items for water. The third one for the flooding issues related to the combined sewer system. We've been working with the Nwrd on the Washington Street Sanitary Relief Sewer Project. So that obviously is on Washington Street from 119th to 121st. There are several locations on 119th, 120th, 120th place, and it all feeds back to that same sewer, which would be part of that relief sewer project. Right now, we are in the process of developing IGA, and then of course, the design and everything following the IGA process. So, any questions about the sanitary sewer relief project here?
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm sorry, just so I understand, you're going to be handling these issues for us going forward? You're with Perk Engineering, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and you'll be handling these issues for us going forward?
I mean, as far as the design or as far as
The
what
project, I'm not sure what your role is. Are you project management or what are you doing?
I am our representative for the city.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. So given that, I wanted to just say kind of for future reference, as you know, there are flooding problems within the city, and I know you're aware of kind of some of the big solutions that we're looking at and need, and their long-term solutions. We're also in kind of dire need of some shorter-term solutions, and it's down to the level of what the property owner can do to help mitigate their situation. And I've had
Inside or outside?
both, but probably primarily inside homes, basements primarily. And we're an old town, and the buildings were built, whatever, and the codes or whatever they were. So now we're just all stuck with what we got. I own an older home in Blue Island, and I've had my issues. And over the past 20 years, I've learned, this little trick here and that little trick there, and now my basement's dry. But it took a lot of work to get that to happen. And a lot of homeowners are new, younger, don't know, find themselves sometimes in a very dire circumstance. So not to go on and on, but I would very much like to see us develop guidelines, perhaps some kind of an ombudsman who will go out and actually talk to people at their property and say, here's some tips, that kind of thing. So just for future reference.
Sure. Yeah,
And so that's actually just, I was thinking of this before and you put it into words. As you know, I own a lot of property in town, and over the years, you're right, you figure out what to do. Downspouts have to come out of the ground, a few feet away from the foundation line, see where the water is flowing when it's raining. And all my basements have been dry, so maybe something we can put together in a City of Blue Island for social media, hand pamphlets. We can do all that. If you could help us put together just suggestions that are helping our, educate our constituents.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have for many communities. Some communities are interested in doing 50-50 programs, for overhead sewers, things like that. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely plenty of options. We can absolutely put those together.
Okay, and just to be kind of specific about this, in overhead sewers, I understand that's a pretty high dollar investment. I am really thinking of really simple things that you sometimes can do. And I can go through all my number of things that I've learned over my time, but we don't want to be bored with that tonight. But there are, there's low, a lot of our residents aren't real high income, but there are low cost, fairly simple things. Sometimes you have to check something monthly or whatever, so those are the kind of things I'm doing.
Yeah, no, yeah, we've, created a top 10 list for homeowners,
Yeah.
Things like that. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Great.
again, that area that you're referring to is in my ward. And I've seen the flooding and the severity of the flooding, and granted, alleviating the water away from your property, but when the water comes right up to your door, there's, even if you have a drain tile system, there's no, that thing's running, 24/7, just to attempt to keep the basement dry.
Yeah.
So I'm be very excited to look at this project going forward. So
Sure. And if there's one thing that I could request of you guys is to get the word out to your residents. If they have pictures of those, we could use those because that's all that evidence helps us get the grants that, that we're applying for.
Okay.
And those tell the tale that, we describe in engineering terms, but having those pictures, it's really literally priceless. So if you can get the word out to,
Yeah.
all of them, those are the best things for us to have to be able to.
I've accumulated some videos, so as well, so I can
Or
I can definitely share that with
whatever evidence you
you.
have, sure. Yeah,
Excellent.
those are all great. Kind of jumping around here a little bit, but then, so moving on, the next area that we've been trying to tackle is the roads, the streets. So we're working with CMAP and Applied Research Associates. They're the ones who did the last road condition analysis in 2020. So we're updating those maps and we'll be developing that road program moving into 2022. The same thing for the FAU routes. So those are the routes that are eligible for federal funds, federal aid urban. We are looking at not only identifying the ones that we have currently, but ones that may be potentials to be converted to allow those federal funds to be used. As everybody knows, we've been tracking the federal infrastructure bill that's been moving forward and is finally signed into law. So we're hopeful that a lot of those funds will be trickling down sometime in 2022.
Just to give you an example to the council, there's not a lot of streets that qualify for this unless we change the jurisdiction of it. And most that are in, it's like 123rd Street, they're not that bad. So like I threw out Greenwood, northbound, because western and southbound, stuff like that, it's not 127th artery, but it's an artery for a localized our area. So if we change the classification, if we're successful in that, we tap into funds that we weren't able to tap into before. So he's analyzing what streets would fall into that criteria.
It's another bucket for us to potentially get funds out of. And the same thing with some of the TIF districts, those roadways are of questionable makeup. So we're going to look at trying to use some of those funds for the roadways that are in or near the TIF districts. And then of course, the MFT funds from the Nwrd fuel tax, developing a plan to address those. So it's kind of several different tentacles for the road program, but making sure they're all trying to address the issues that the city is seeing. So, so then just stepping out of there, I'm going to kind of move into some of the funding sources that we've been looking at. So the BG grant, the City Block Development Grant, the 2021 that Robinson submitted on behalf of the city was denied. We just found that out this week. So we've reached out to the county to try to get some feedback on why that potentially was and what we can do moving into 2022, because that usually hits in January. So we want to be ready to be able to get that application back in and hopefully be successful next year. So that's for the CDBG.
I'll provide more information. Every 3-4 years, we get denied. And they only have $6 million total for the entire county this next budget year. It's always 1 year behind like the taxes. 2021 will be next year. And like this past year was 20 million or something like that. So because we were successful in the last 3-4 years in a row, we want to give it to a town that hasn't gotten it. That doesn't mean we're not, if the influx comes in from the federal government to the county might look at the applications. I talked to Tom Nagel on length on the phone yesterday about this, and exactly what you just said. So this was a Robinson thing, and he was, again, every 3-4 years it's happened, and it's unfortunate. We were lucky, and now we might have.
We see the same thing.
It's about $300,000-$400,000 for that project that was in.
Yep. So another big grant that the governor pushed out recently was the DCEO, the Main Street Redevelopment Grant Program. So that's a $50 million bucket. $50 million with 250,000 to 3 million as the range for applications. Those are due in early January. So we are definitely looking at that. I think we're eyeing, correct me if I'm wrong, the Western Avenue.
Phase 2 and 3.
Yep, for those.
Which would be Grove to 127th is phase 2 and 127th to 119. If they could supplement our 1% streetscape.
Another recent application was the MWRD Green Infrastructure Grant. Again, that we just learned last week that was also an unsuccessful application. And it's pretty much the exact same thing that the mayor had just said, where the number of applications versus the amount of funding are not exactly equivalent. So, but we'll be ready to do this to reapply again in 2022. So, the feedback from everybody on those. The last one that I have listed down here is the safe routes to school. So we'll be looking, with the issues on 127th to try to get some cameras there, speed cams, solar powered. That requires, as Mayor alluded earlier, that's night out roads. We requires a letter of support from them, information from the schools. And so we'll be looking to push all that out for the application for that one next year. So, and then there's plenty of others. There's ITAP, all kinds of other grants that would be associated with. We were able to change some of the classifications for those roadways. So we would also look at that. So the other alternate funding source that we have is there's 2 IEPA loans that the city currently has on the books with the EPA, the only EPA. One is for lead service replacements. It's 236 lead service lines. And then a second one to do some work on the Thornton elevated tank, replace 780 feet of an 8-inch water main, and then the 4,119 meters in the city, which would go to tie back into the meter options that I mentioned earlier that we're currently looking at. So, so any questions about any of those funding sources?
Again, if this federal infrastructure bill is real, we got a lot of attention to fix more water of the lead lines. When you dig up the street with the lead lines, you have to replace the street too. So hopefully those funding options open up a little bit for us based on the attention.
So I have a, not regards to funding so much, but as far as our street maintenance goes, I believe we need a comprehensive plan, and it would be, if we can have that, develop a plan and be able to put it online so that residents can see that, we're actively working on our streets. If that's possible, you'd be willing.
Yeah, that's direction that we've been given from the mayor and the administration.
So basically, I Alderman McGee 100%, exactly what I was thinking, something residents can see, this is where we're at. This is what we want to do next year. This is what we want to do in 3 years. And these are the conditions of the streets.
Correct.
And simplified, because CMAP has it broken down by like 10 different strategies, 10 different gradings. I want to see it's the worst street possible in the world and there's nothing left of it to it's good and a couple in between. So it's nice and clear, like red, blue, green. We had one done in 2018. It was lightly updated in 2020. And then once we have that updated one, we can spread it around social media, pamphlet it. So this is where we're at right now. This is where we're currently at. These are the condition of the streets where we're currently at. And we have to attack whatever some funding sources possible to what's the worst first, depending on funding. And some take priority because they apply for different grants like CVG or TIP that other parts of town are not eligible for. But however, people should clearly see where their street is. More importantly, that a lot of streets are bad and not just their street, which has been the common for anybody that's knocking the door in town. Everybody thinks the street in front of theirs is worse than any other street. There's a lot of bad streets in town. And something clear and easy to put out there. I made that request, so we can have that soon.
Yep. Yeah. Well, a comprehensive plan would include maintenance as far as possibly rejuvenators that we could use as well. Funding that we're going to be receiving, current state and future projects that are going to be on our list. Yes. So that would be a comprehensive.
Okay. Understood. Well, so the last couple of things I have are just that we're as we're moving into the budget and planning process. We're working with Tom to get those kind of everything that I mentioned tonight, numbers prepared for those, cost estimates, budget analysis, and then continue the last item, which is the Robinson transition. In doing that, there's a few things they're working on, some information from them. We work through that. So far, so good.
Okay.
Any other questions from the Alderman? Staff? No? All right. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Next, we have a presentation by Lakeshore Recycling and discussion regarding ordinance relating to refuse container fees. So Alderman Rita, I think you wanted to open on this.
Yes, so over the past couple of years, I've been asking the city staff about ways we can address the rat problem here in Blue Island and in our city alleys. As you all know, the rodent issues have only increased during the pandemic. After having conversation with the staff, I asked Lakeshore to please come to this meeting and to help us navigate through this issue, and thank you for coming. But I would like to start by asking the staff a few questions. So first of all, what does the current waste management contract say about our ability to place additional trash bins at certain homes?
Alderman Rita, Tom Morgan, City Administrator. I've been speaking with Lakeshore Recycling Services. Our contract is available online. The language is relatively direct and simplistic as it comes to distribution of bins. So basically really just states each single family home gets one bin, each duplex home gets two bins, multi-unit homes get three bins. Doesn't spell out any specific provisions or pathway to say if we want to do, offer up additional cans. I think when the time of the contract was signed, the problems we're dealing with, really all municipalities are dealing with in terms of increased waste at homes was not really in focus. It was not an issue at the time. So there wasn't really a plan set up within that contract to say if we need a number of homes need additional cans, what do we do about that, right? So I think the solutions that have come so far have been kind of pieced together internally but don't exist within the contract.
And what has been the past city practice when it comes to adding bins to single family homes? And Jim, I don't know if you would be able to.
Yeah. So
chime in.
and when Alderman Rita started down the road of these questions a few weeks ago, we started looking into it. The short answer is that the solution that has been used at the city level is simply to reclassify a single family home as a duplex home or a duplex home as a multi-unit home residence when needed. So kind of pick case by case. If someone's getting a number of violations for having overflowing garbage in their alleys week after week, they need a new can, they ask for one, they're given one, but on our books, they're just transferred from a single family to a duplex home, for example, which is not accurate.
I do not like that.
No, I don't think anybody likes that, because really what it creates is I cannot, as we stand here right now, I can't tell you which single family homes have additional cans and which ones don't. And we're going to figure out how to untangle that problem. But I think, and this is where I think the representative from Lakeshore, why Alderman Rita asked him to come today, I think the solution is going to have to get put into contract language first before we can come up with a internal process to say, okay, the Fairwell home needs an additional can. Let's properly charge for that. And it's a very reasonable amount of my understanding, but let's have it on the books correctly so that we know that that single family home has two cans, not that it's being listed as a duplex home. So.
Right.
Just another example of stuff that we didn't know what was going on with the internal mechanisms of the city. And
every day's a learning experience.
We need to do the right thing. So we're at this point, this is just for discussion right now, and this is going to be bundled into our renewal probably next year with the disposal. Is that the?
I think ultimately going to be the council's decision. I think there might be some motivation to take some steps along these lines before we're about to go into a winter season and then come out of that into spring. By spring, the rat problems will rematerialize. I know we have done some things at the mayor's direction. We changed the road management company, the pest control company. From my chair, from what I see day to day, Barton Pest Control is doing a very good job at trying to chase after this problem. But this is obviously an effort to try to cut it off at its source, quite frankly. So,
right.
So this is going to be.
I think we're going to have to let the conversation evolve, but I think
well, it'd be two different things. We can make an ordinance stipulating what we want to do. We want to charge for an additional can, what that amount would be, or keep the amounts out of it, just streamline the process before we go into renegotiating the disposal contract.
Yeah, I think as long as we, from an administrative standpoint, had the directive very clear and on paper to say this is what we want to do, we could start to build a plan around it. As Land Island, Lakeshore, I think would be one to work with us on that. So,
Is there any questions from the council? It's generally what we want to do is streamline the process and correct the bookkeeping.
Well, yeah, because I do know that some people don't want to get an extra can because they think it's going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. And then the garbage is just laying there, you know what I mean? I mean, there's people that they need an extra can. If we can get them an extra can, that's what we need to do.
I think.
And of course, enforcement, building enforcement, and I've been emailing Sue Wagner as well, asking for reports specifically just on the third ward to where there are rat traps, what are they being done? And I did talk to Bob in the building department, and he's been trying to get, and Beverly was included. So they're trying to get at with on Sue Wagner to be able to provide a little more information, just so I can understand. Are we moving forward with this? But that's a different
But I think
discussion.
it's clear the administration needs to start putting something together to craft an ordinance or amend what we currently have, so we can clean up the process way before we go out for review. All right.
And then then if Lakeshore, if you wouldn't mind coming. You want to introduce yourself? Thank you so much for coming out.
My pleasure. Is it okay for me to take this off?
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank all of you for inviting me to be here tonight. Mayor Bellato, a belated congratulations to you on your new role in the city, and as well as I know there's some new faces for city council too, so congratulations to you all. My name is Bill Kenny. I'm the municipal manager for LRS. We call ourselves LRS, it's sort of abbreviated now, but Lakeshore Recycling Systems. I'm the same person that stood here before many of you almost 5 years ago to tell you about my company. I hope for the most part we've lived up to the promises we made to the city as your hauler. I know there have been some rough shoals this past winter, but we are very excited to be here. We love being a partner with this community, and I'll stop being verbose here and answer as many questions about services as I can.
So I did have a few questions. So basically, are you experiencing your company a higher than normal amounts of trash in and around the bins when collecting?
This is, yeah, I mean, yes, in very short answer. I mean, if we looked at volume reports and tonnage reports, you'll see that most residents are on average, just as a result of the pandemic, have seen the amount of their garbage increase by about 25%. And sometimes a little lower, sometimes even a little bit higher. So naturally, when people are home more, they're working from home. That seems to be maybe the new normal now. People are producing more garbage, and we have to account for that. We haven't added more routes on the street. We're still at the same route structure, but so I would say yes. Could I tell you exactly how that translates into tonnage or volume offhand? No, but I can tell you that we certainly have seen an uptick, not just Blue Island, but pretty much every municipality that we haul for.
Okay. And then our current contract, it doesn't have any provisions for providing additional cans, right? So
No, yeah, as Tom had mentioned, it's fairly cut and dry in some certain areas, but it doesn't have any specific language for adding more carts to whether it's single family homes, 2 flats, 3 flats. Having said that, I look at a lot of different contracts every day, so I probably would want to go back and just make sure I'm doing some due diligence to, tell you that's certain, but I don't believe there's any language for that.
right, and then of course, so can it be amended or adjusted to better allow for additional bins to be placed at home? So
Of course, it's always in our interest to help the city and what's in the city's best interest. I don't want to sound like a car salesman, but that is true. We will work with the city and what works best for you and your constituents. Oftentimes that, as you know, that involves amendments to the contract, but yeah, we'll do whatever we can to help mitigate this.
Okay, and then are there any other municipalities you work with that have a system that we could use as a model?
Well, I think there's a couple options to consider. There would be the additional card option. We have some municipalities that we call take-all towns, where similar to Blue Island, you have one bill. And essentially, as long as what residents put out is simpatico with what's allowed in the landfill, I mean, we can't be taking gas-powered engines or hazardous materials, that sort of thing. Then we would take that. That's baked into our pro formas when we do our pro formas as far as the price per home goes. But that is something that we have in other communities too, that we could just discuss with the city as well.
So that would be one option, or the other option would be regarding additional.
Cars. But I just want to be clear too, there's no panacea for this. If somebody puts out 20 yards of debris, we have to have some sort of provision for that. Otherwise, we just never finish routes. But if people, I have a family of 5, and so we have a 95-gallon cart, 3 kids and a wife and me. We produce a lot of recycling, but also a lot of garbage in certain ways. And so, if somebody had extra bags or something like that, yeah, that would be part of a take-all situation. If somebody had a wrapped mattress, an end table, a couch, those would all be included in that.
Well, I'm sure Jim can attest. We have mattresses all the time, couches, right? That's like a weekly. And then, do you have any other ideas or suggestions that we could be implementing to address the excess trash in our alleys?
Not any of that I would be saying would be 100% effective. It's a given that rodent issues are always going to be to some extent, but we haul a lot of communities. We've run into this issue before, and we're pretty good at least coming back and spitballing ideas that could sort of help out in those scenarios. I'd probably want to do a deeper dive on this with you or city council or Jim and his crew, just to get a better understanding of where this, if there's sort of a focus point of where these situations are, but again.
Or just get some ideas together.
Yeah, it's certainly worthy of discussion.
Okay, and then also, of course, how it would affect the cost to Blue Island. We would want that information as well.
Sure.
And I did want one last thing I wanted to add is that I always do appreciate Lakeshore, your drivers. They know me and they're always very nice. They always wave. They will do the extra, so that's nice.
I appreciate those kind words. Yeah. They're the lifeblood of the company. They are a lot more for our success than I could ever do. So it's nice you say that. I'll pass those.
Yep.
Thoughts on.
Anything else, Alderman? Anything else?
No, I'm good.
I was opening it up. No, the rest of the council, maybe wants to go tomatoes. I don't see the time.
That's okay. I'm here to
I've
take
had
all
issues
questions.
as Alderman myself, so but I'm not going to say anything now. But, I want to open up to any other Alderman, any questions.
I'm ready to.
I just wanted to actually thank you. I had some resident issues with contamination of garbage, and you guys handled it very well, and you got back to me really quickly, and the resident was satisfied. So yes, I appreciate your resolution.
Thank you
Yes.
for saying that. That's obviously a big part of it is just sort of the response time. Even if we don't have a solution to it, at least you're hearing from us. I know I talked to Alderman Carr a few times over the winter and had good discussions, and that's always the best foot forward, at least to discuss it. So thank you.
Alderman Fairwell.
Yeah, kind of just the same general tone. I was here when we engaged the contract the first time, and my experience both as an alderman and as a resident with Lakeshore have been positive. And I understand that, of course, we've got a renewal coming up. And I would just suggest to you, because I have heard complaints from elsewhere, and of course, you never know, maybe they're legitimate, maybe they're not, I don't know. But when it comes time for the renewal, and I would assume you probably have these kinds of things, but any metrics that you can provide that will support the overall quality of your service probably would be very helpful at that time. Like I say, my experience has been good, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, and thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, usually the metrics that we focus on are the ones that administrations want to see, which is, comparisons of volume reports, tonnage, set out rates, white goods collected, those sorts of things. And we have that capacity to do that. That sort of quantifiable versus qualifiable. Qualifiable, the best thing is just, how you guys feel we're doing. But if I could lay something out, we do have certain communities. Evanston is one where we have call logs that we provide to them on a quarterly basis that show if there were complaints, how quickly it was handled, when it was handled, and what the resolution was. And that maybe would be the sort of thing that would, we could always embellish.
Sure, that could be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Either all? No, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks very
Thank
much.
you.
everybody.
Next, just an announcement that the Metropolitan Alliance of Police, the MAP, is requesting an election from its current AFSCME members. I believe this is clerks and public works. Police clerks and public works, just informational. They have to decide. They're the union members. They probably take an election if it hasn't already happened. So
It might delay bargaining a little bit.
we want to know who we're talking to. So they have to have an election. Chief, you have something?
I just couldn't hear the attorney. I'm sorry.
My mic wasn't on. I'm sorry. I said that this may impact the time frame for bargaining. It may delay things slightly because we'll want to know who we're bargaining with if the members do choose to go with a different union.
All right. Next, we have city administrator's report, employee health insurance update.
Last time I spoke with you, we were going through our health insurance options for renewal that's coming up January 1. Last time we were looking at eliminating our regular PPO plan. However, we dug a little bit into the participants in the current PPO plan. A number of those, as you can see under the Medicare single and family, there's approximately 47 individuals that are retirees. A number of those live out of state. And the Blue Choice PPO option would not be an option for them because that's only for Illinois residents. So to minimize the disruption for retirees, we are considering bringing back the regular PPO again for next year. However, we are looking at some options to incentivize members to move into the Blue Choice option. One of those incentives would be increase the contribution rates for employees. Also, we are looking at other cost saving options, which would include Blue Cross HMO Advantage Plan, which essentially carves out the retirees and puts them into a separate plan. It is a PPO plan though, and there is tremendous savings in there. However, we have to make sure that it does not conflict with any previous contractual agreements that were through the CBA with police and fire employees.
What, excuse me, did you say Blue Advantage?
It's a PPO specifically for retirees, not the HMO Blue Advantage.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, because it says HMO.
Yeah, it's like a PPO Medicare Advantage plan,
Okay.
which carves out retirees. However, that's an option. We are still looking into it a little bit more, but renewal time is coming up at the end of November. We just wanted to inform the council that we are
looking at bringing back the PPO, or keeping the regular PPO, but incentivizing those to move into the Blue Choice plan. If I have any questions?
Yeah, I think if you could keep the PPO, I was talking to a staff member recently who has some family issues with extraordinarily high drug costs and some things which we all find, and they're concerned that there's the question of, well, will the next plan cover the drugs or not, and all those kind of things. So I would say if you can, keep the
Yeah.
status quo is probably a good
The
thing.
cost savings are great with the Blue Choice PPO, but also we don't want to cause disruption for current employees that might be seeing a doctor that's outside of the Blue Choice network, and also for the retirees that live, employees and retirees that live outside of it.
Any other questions about the insurance? Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Enterprise vehicle insurance update. Well, we got some issues. Without the insurance that we're still going after, it's not cost feasible for at least next year. Am I going ahead of you?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
So the council considered the enterprise rental agreement or lease agreement for police vehicles. I believe it was 10 vehicles is what we started with. As everyone knows, the city is self-insured, which means we don't have comprehensive liability insurance. We are efforting towards correcting that problem into 2022. The issue we're faced with right now is we do have a fleet of police vehicles, public works vehicles, fire vehicles that are on the streets every day that, obviously carry liability with them every time they leave City Hall or leave Public Works Garage. So the new police cars that we're trying to obtain here would really fall into that same category. It wouldn't change anything. But because I know insurance is an issue we've all talked about, I took the steps of working with Alliant, our insurance broker, to see if we could get a standalone policy for these vehicles. It probably isn't a huge shock that a standalone policy is, it's an outlier in the insurance market, right? So it's not something that they do a lot. And so when they quote it very high. Because it's police vehicles, they're quoted even higher as a result. So I was trying to go down the road of saying, okay, we know we want comprehensive insurance at some point here, but can we start with getting these newer vehicles insured before they hit the street? Without a comprehensive policy, the cost of insuring the vehicles pretty much outpaces the actual cost of the lease program at that point. We do still need police vehicles. We do believe, especially patrol vehicles, we're very much in need of. We do believe that we can still move forward with this plan. But here's what I would propose, and this is on the agenda for informative purposes primarily. What my hope is that the vehicles that we would get through enterprise, we wouldn't take ownership until April, around April of 2022. I am of the belief that our audit is going to be complete by the end of the month. We're going to be constructing a new appropriations into 2022, hopefully probably passed by January. We've talked pretty extensively about budgeting for a comprehensive liability insurance policy at that point. So by the time we take ownership of these vehicles, my hope would be that we have a comprehensive plan in place that they can be added to, that we can afford. If not, we'll have failed in that goal, but I really do think that based on my conversations with mayor, the council, and I think kind of just the general will and desire of this corporate authority is that we want to get insured. So if that is our goal, I do think we can achieve that before these vehicles get here. If for whatever reason we can't, again, so we're in the same boat.
The line item exists either way, rather we purchase it straight to this joint purchasing program for the state, we're gonna give the money to enterprise, one way or the other, the line item has to be funded.
Right, and the mayor leads me to the next point on this subject matter, which is that since we are trimming down what the order on enterprise based on the fact that if we're working to insure all 10 vehicles, I'm really just stripping it down to what do we need going into 2022. What we need primarily is patrol vehicles, maybe an administrative vehicle or two. If we can get insurance in place for that, it would apply to any vehicle we get. In order to have a fleet that's operating over all of our police officers, we all want more police presence on the streets as well. There is an option that might come before this council in the November or 1st December, the November 23rd or the 1st December meeting. If a patrol car becomes available through the state motor pool purchase, there's a dealership in Peoria that is looking out for a car for us. we may be able to fit that into the FY21 budget, give the police some breathing room on their vehicle situation. Again, this will all come before council. We'll have budget numbers to back it up. By then, we should hopefully have an audit that gives us more confidence in the budget numbers to back it up. So,
Line items funded right now to a point. to purchase these.
correct, and should have enough remaining in there to produce, to be able to purchase one additional patrol vehicle. So that's where we're at with this. It is going to be kind of evolving. There is still a chance that if we can't make the enterprise, we've tried to pull the trigger on this enterprise deal a couple of times, but the availability of the actual automobiles has become very difficult. All right, so it has hit some stumbling blocks. We do think we can still utilize it into 2022 to get vehicles at an affordable price. But my hope here, our hope here is that as we're adding vehicles to our roll, that we're taking steps to make sure that we're, like I said, by the first quarter, the end of first quarter of 2022, that we've got something that we can all live with in terms of comprehensive liability.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. It just kind of raises one other question for me that I hadn't considered. So all of us sitting here, we're all required to have liability insurance on our vehicles, correct? The city doesn't?
I think the best answer is we have basically both the very bare bones coverage that the Illinois law requires, but anything, any damage that is created by a city vehicle, we don't have, we've talked about this here at this council about these various, the list of potential payouts for public works vehicles, striking things, stuff like that. We have as bare bones as it can get.
It's called self-insurance. My school district is self-insured. They don't have insurance on any of the vehicles. They're self-insurance. The way they've always done it. There's other avenues too that we're looking to catastrophic insurance. So let's say we pay for things under 200,000, anything above 200,000, one claim would come out of the catastrophic insurance. We have some of the same stuff at the park and the township. So there's different avenues, not just an umbrella plan. If the umbrella plan is not feasible, the council have to decide there's other plans that we could do. So we have something.
Much like Mark walked us
$1
through.
million settlement.
Okay.
Yeah, much like Mark walked us through, there's a lot of different options and different pathways to build a health insurance plan. The same is true of a comprehensive
This is
liability.
a Tetris game with different insurance policies going forward.
Exactly. Different levels of coverage and on different types of vehicles, things like that. We'll have a lot to talk about and consider, but the end result should be something that we can all breathe a little easier about. I mean, I try not to think about it, honestly.
Is there a contractual requirement that the vehicles be insured to a higher standard, or is it just because we are leasing them, we want to have a better insurance policy in place?
I think two parts of that answer. Yes, on the latter, that because we're leasing them, and second is, I believe, per kind of direction from the mayor, direction from this council. I think we're trying to get to think along the lines of trying to ensure things that we're taking in. So I took a stab at the standalone policy because of that, but was basically told it's a big sticking sore thumb in the market. It just stands out too much. But yeah, I was kind of just going off best practices. We should be insured, right? So can we, if I can't insure everything with the one because we don't have the budget structured in the way to do that. But since this was a new thing, my thought process was, can we insure at least these vehicles that are coming on so we don't have to add into a policy later? The answer was not practical, basically.
Vehicle sticker, you want to stay out there? Who's
Yeah, this will be quick. I had a conversation with Alderman Renewal about this already during one of our finance meetings, but the vehicle, so we did a vehicle sticker mailing. We budgeted for, but we didn't really budget properly for the vehicle sticker mailing. The vehicle sticker mailing line item was set to the exact amount it cost the previous year, which is not the best budget practice. Everything costs more year to year, right? So that said, we are a little bit over budget in that line item. But we would like to do something this year, and I think the clerk can speak to this as well. But we've had some success and seen some uptick in numbers on our engagement in vehicle stickers, but we're still, I think, maybe just over 50% of vehicles on the Secretary of State registry, something in that ballpark. I'm not too far off if I'm off. We still have a lot of vehicles that are registered in Blue Island that have not purchased stickers. That's not to say our data is perfect, but there's still a lot of vehicles out there driving around that have not purchased stickers.
Chief knows he's out there. They're doing another sweep, which includes everything. We call it the sticker sweep, but vehicles, registration, plates, are they out here?
They started,
Yeah.
I think, Chief, he started, people came in today with their tickets complaining, so I think they started, right? Is that correct, Dennis?
Yeah, sorry to that.
Yeah, they came in today already. They want to know why they just moved to town yesterday or last week or something.
So what we'd like to do, and this is based on advice that we received from Third Millennium, who handles the actual logistics of sending out these bills, and they work with a lot of municipalities, so they have a lot of expertise on this. They were a little surprised that we don't do a follow-up mail. They said most municipalities do a follow-up mail. Okay, so
And we have done it in the past, just not last year.
okay,
We did one follow-up 1 year, 2 years ago, if anybody else remembers that, where we tied it to Secretary of State records.
okay,
You know
so
what I think we
That was
also
like
did this
one.
year?
One.
Once.
What also we did this year, when they came in for, people that moved, they came in like return mail. I sat there personally and deleted buckets and buckets of them. So I'm hopefully that is gone, so we won't get,
Yeah, we should have
people would
some-
come- People would come up and say, well, I haven't had this car in 3 years. I'm like, I would just apologize because I wouldn't know because I wasn't here. I personally deleted buckets and buckets of return mail, so hopefully that helps.
yeah, and there's probably still some bad data in there, but the majority of it's going to be folks who do have a car registered in town, have not purchased a sticker. So the second mailing would look similar to the first, but what they call a red tag mailing. You've all been laid on a bill, you know what a red tag mailing is. The only discussions we're in right now are whether or not it's a second sort of warning or whether it has a court date attached to it. If you don't buy your sticker by a particular time, if logistically we can do that, I would actually like to from an enforcement standpoint. Coming out of COVID, coming out of some just kind of lax enforcement, there needs to be a little bit of a culture change and people understanding that they have to purchase their stickers. So this would be kind of part of that. The cost on the mailing would be just over $5,000. We do have money within the account itself, the fund line itself that we can move around, but it will inflate that particular line item over. But that said, if we sell, I mean, it would cost us less than 100 stickers to sell to make up the cost, and you're talking about probably 6,000-7,000 households being mailed to. So if we get a fraction of them to respond, it'll pay for itself.
Alderman?
That's good. I see the report we saw last night where, 127 stickers over where we were, I guess, at this time last year, which is good. It's better to be up and down. And I certainly don't have any argument with doing the mailing. It does seem like we're trying, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, we're like kind of at the point of diminishing returns on this. So I don't know whether we're just up against the limit or there's something more we can do, but it's not, what we're doing so far isn't producing, a really significant result.
We do it, but if we could tie it to a year end. Have a little teeth. Any other questions? Thank you. Golf course,
All right.
the winter rates and schedule.
Yeah, this is just simple. I know there's other golf course discussions to be had, but this one's pretty simple. Winter rate, going into fall and some winter golf rates, there's two things. One, Mr. Franchetti kind of gave me a list of basic rates that would bring everything down by about $4 to $5 per service. So 18 holes goes from 39 to 34, 18 holes walking goes from 25 to 20, et cetera, et cetera. All of the rates basically just go down because it's fall and winter golf. You have less time out there, you have less daylight, you have less crowd, you have less, it's just, lower season. So people are still coming out. Most golf courses do this. They offer a syndicated rate as you go into fall and winter. So we're planning on implementing that. The other probably more significant consideration that I've been discussing with the mayor right now is, and with Mr. Manchetti as well, is the potential of closing down the golf course for the winter months from, in my mind, December 15th to February 15th. We don't get a lot of traction there, or a lot of foot traffic there at that time. Obviously, you get occasional people. Some people play the game, some people, but cost returns are pretty minimal in terms of staying open in the dead of January and February. We also have some slightly bigger scale maintenance stuff we might want to do there. The carpet there is pretty bad. There's some plumbing issues that need to be addressed.
There's toilets that run constantly. There's roof that's leaking. The light
Leaking roof.
fixtures have been, half of them are broken sockets.
Some of it has been replaced.
Just deferred maintenance like we see everywhere else.
Yeah.
Just small deferred maintenance. A lot of small stuff adds up though.
There would still be some potential reasons for the clubhouse to be open on certain days if there's rentals or things like that, but we can cover that both with Vinnie Franchetti and with a lower level of part-time staff that we can cover with. And in terms of workforce, as it were, my thought would be that full-time full-time golf course staff can be assisting and specifically in public works, because obviously as the golf course goes down in terms of activity in the winter months, public works responsibilities go considerably up. And so, I mean, if I could flood public works with 50 people right now, I would, right? You know, but so I'm just, that's just looking to where we're going to kind of shift staff around on a temporary period as we, I know that hasn't been done in the past, but just in looking at what kind of efficiency you get out of the golf course from in January and February, I think I think it's a good idea. I've made the recommendation to the mayor. Nothing's been solidified yet, obviously. So.
Questions about that? Now we have a separate conversation about later in the agenda. City clerk's report.
Basically, the same report as last night, but I did get some phone calls, so I'm going to repeat about the light parade. The light parade is December 4th. There's applications online for the Kringle Mart and for the parade. At the Kringle Mart, there'll be a petting zoo, pony ride, a train ride, and a bear ride. That starts around 2:00-ish, and that is all free except for you shopping inside the Kringle Mart. The mayor will light up the York and Western Park before the parade, so we're planning on maybe around between 4:30 and 5 to be, the parade does start at 5:30. Larry Goretta will be the grand marshal this year. The Santa House and the horse and wagon rides will follow the parade. And again, you can sign up anytime you want. And the California Gardens of Love Baptist Church will be doing an annual Thanksgiving hot free meals November 20th from 12 to 3. If you're interested, you can call Valerie Collins at the church. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Honor the city attorney with resolution supporting the Class A real estate tax assessment classification application by Founders Bank for 5240 for the property located at 2338 New Street, Blue Illinois, which is the old Heart Care Center next to St. Benedict's School. I need a, well,
No,
the attorney want to talk about it?
yeah,
Yeah, this goes to the.
if you agree, we'll be putting it on the next agenda, but basically the resolution, this property has been vacant for more than 2 years. The owner of the property filed an application for a Class 8. A Class 8 is basically just a tax incentive, and this is step 1 in that process. If the resolution itself states that we support this owner's application for a Class 8, and then if the resolution passes, it goes the next step to the county.
The county makes the final decision as part of their checkbox application. We've done it before. The building has been empty probably at least 7, 8 years, to my recollection. And it's a doctor's group is what I've heard is who's interested in purchasing the building. Anybody's better than nobody in there right now. It's all falls into the same zoning planning, which is a doctor's building. So it'll be on the next agenda unless there's any issues. Next, we have resolution approving the execution of an agreement with CETA in relation to the low-income housing water assistance program.
This is a resolution that would allow funding to be provided to Blue Island as a public water system to help us reduce some of the arrearages and prevent disconnection of water to low-income families. So it's just one of those agreements that allows us to bring in.
You have some information about the, I don't know, the level of assistance is available, what the income level so far.
You know, it does not say what those levels are in the actual agreement. I don't know if the staff has any numbers or information from you.
Alderman, just repeat your question.
I'm just wondering if there's any information about the level of assistance available, what the income level is.
Up to $1,500, and I believe it's 200% of poverty level.
Okay, great.
And this is federal funds that is being distributed with CETA. The individual homeowner would have to apply to CETA for this assistance. If it is granted, then CETA will issue a check directly to the city of Blue Island.
Okay. I would hope that if we do get this, which I think is a good thing, that we would engage in a fairly aggressive outreach program to those residents to let them know.
Agree, yeah. At the minimum, we will be doing a posting. Now, this program does not start until, I believe, December 6th. This is step 1 for us to have the agreement, which can have changes. After attorney review, if there's any changes that need to be made to the contract, it can kind of be tailored to the city of Blue Island. It also does include late fees as well as sanitation fees. So I attended a Zoom conference on this specific program, and it's anything that's involved in the utility bill. That's great.
Oh, so would the water department, like for instance, Betty or whatever, would she be the person who'd be tracking this and reaching out?
Yes. Well, we'd be posting on social media, we'd be posting on the top of the water bills and doing any other communication. Now, if there are people that are calling in already trying to make a payment plan with the city of Blue Island, then we would then inform them as well.
Okay, that was gonna be my next,
Basically, free money for us and
right.
Good. All right, any other questions? Now we move on to the last thing on here, under attorney. It's the Mead Electric. All the stoplights in town, their maintenance agreement for the year is $182 and $13 per location per month. I can't find last year's, Jim. This is slightly higher than last year's. Is it per location? It's the exact same price.
it's a slightly higher.
Slightly higher. So if you notice on the list of traffic intersections, all the stoplights we have to maintain, this would be a monthly maintenance charge to maintain the stoplights. It's something we've had for years. We're coming through finance years ago. Is there any questions on this? No, that'll be on the next agenda. All right, number 11, we have Alderman McGee with the golf course outsourcing.
Okay, so I sent the council and the administration an email with a proposal. I was able to obtain one proposal out of two parties that I had met with, myself and Alderman Johnson. And I believe, from my understanding, the golf course has been in the red for the past three out of 5 years. This year, we're doing well, as Alderman Carr had presented me the updated profit and loss. But I think it's something to consider that we look at getting a request for proposal.
Just to clarify, just from my memory on the finance committee, I know the treasurer wants to talk about this. And he probably will talk about it in detail because he pays attention to that. There was surplus, big surplus in that account because they take depreciation out of the office. So they take the cost of machinery and buildings over time, the loss of that, deducting it from the actual net profits of the property just for audit purposes only. I know that since I've been an alderman every year, it's been, so I've been an alderman since 2014. It's 2015, my first full year. It made money every year during the audit. They depreciate the value, just like in your own investment property. So I only make $3,000 a year on two flat, and really in pocket I make $20,000, but they depreciate the cost of the HVAC system and the roof system because eventually I'm gonna have to replace those things. So you take depreciation out of it, and this is just me going off of my investment portfolio. The net per pocket is a gross revenue every month coming in from the golf course. And I don't have the specifics in front of me, but I know there's $500,000 in profit surplus in the account right now. And that's not us moving money over. We've actually moved money over to pay for the retail cost of water when really water only costs us a fraction. But we made a big stink about it 4 or 5 years ago to pay the water bill. So we paid it a retail amount. Not to mention, as the assessor, as soon as we lease it out to anybody, it's going to be $200,000 a year or so in property taxes, because even though we would own it, if it's a profit generator for the city where we're leasing it, so a third party, a private entity is making money off it, the county's going to want their take. They're going to want their blood money, so they're going to tax it, regardless who owns it. It's a profit situation outside of an individual rental, like we're renting this out to a group that's coming into this. If we're long-term renting something out that the company's making a profit, they're going to want to do property taxes on it. That being said, I'm not against looking at anything, like I've said before, but I know it's made a profit every year. I've been an alderman, at least when the auditor has been grilled by me and Alderman Johnson too. Taking depreciation out of it, it makes money. And again, it's how you look at how you do the accounting.
If I might just, I do understand what you're saying. However, that $500,000 that's sitting there, the place needs to, all that money needs to go back into the place because it's falling apart. That's why there's depreciation.
Any company that comes in, including even the one that was submitted, they're not paying for anything. And then we have also issues with the machines. I'll let the Hiro talk about, but we got a double, that's not including the revenue coming in from machines, and included in the profit that we're counting towards that. So we get double profit on it. We're getting the institute and the city profit of the machines that are there. They're not part of the golf course revenue, which we would lose if we rented it out. But I'll let the Hiro talk about this, because he knows more details, because he's been very involved as an alderman, very involved in the golf course.
I'll just say one thing, or I could probably talk about a couple of things here. I would just agree with you as well,
Mayor, as far as, I think we're wasting our time with this, trying to look for outsourcing the golf course. A lot of people look at it here, council residents look at it in many different ways. The golf course, it's a city asset. It's a recreational resource for our residents, for our visitors, right? If the golf course made $1, so be it. We're here to provide a resource at a reasonable rate. You just heard it just dropped down those rates, but that's including golf carts. I would probably say it, right? Usually we're tender in the golf carts. You want to pay $100? You want to pay $80? Yeah, go to Ruffles Feathers, go to Harborside, go over there. You'll get those rates. If you go to do this, I do have one question for you, Alderman. I know you talked about liability.
Yes.
Well, what liability would we be resolving if we just were outsourcing it? That one bid that you emailed us.
Yes. Yes.
From what I see in there, we still own the property. I think there's one statement in there, I didn't read it completely, that they would pay us $40,000 a year in water.
Correct.
Do you know how much we spend in water alone at the meadows? Is it more or less than 40,000?
I believe it was around 40,000 from the profit and loss that I received.
I didn't get time to do a lot of research in that, but this year we spent $3,000 so far. So I don't know where he came up with that number to give us, but obviously that doesn't solve our issue. But there's a lot of different elements that when you go to look at the golf course, it potentially affect maintenance and service on the greens, because we have that unique situation where what's the name of the company that Servicescape services us? They got us and Elsup, so we get a cheaper rate and we do get benefits from that. But you're gonna be if you privatize this, guess what? Rates are gonna go up. You're gonna mess with all the men's leagues that operate out there, all the women's leagues, all the high schools that operate out there, Park District. They go there because it's a different setting. They get a decent rate, and the people, our representatives at the golf course, work with these people.
But
And maybe if those rates go up, maybe they'll go to Elsa. Maybe they'll go to a different golf course. So membership will probably go down. And as far as liability, like I said, I don't see it resolving liability because we would still own it. I know you mentioned right now, Mayor, that if you were to outsource it, it's going to complicate things. The county's going to want taxes. The gaming is going to have to change around because that gaming is under us. So if it's being managed by someone else and they're making the profit, well, guess what? We're losing 1/3 of the profits generated off gaming. The list goes on and on and on, but I just want to make that quick statement. And one last statement I will say is that I can't stress enough how thankful I am for the staff that we have at the Meadows, all the hours that they put in for what they get paid for, and for them to deserve all this bashing and the word gets out. We talk about this, it trickles out.
What bashing?
So that the service is no good. They're goofing around. They're not doing their job. We could be making more money. So their morale is down. They're getting beat up on. They think it's all the council doing it, and it's not. So that's what I have to say. And if you privatize, I guarantee your rates will go up. Well, you'd probably be losing a lot of patrons.
And Alderman Farrell, let's stand up here. This is a committee meeting in which we have debate and discussions going. Alderman.
Right. I guess I would say if I was to identify where we're wasting our time, it's probably right now because we don't really have any information in front of us. There's difference of opinion. It's obviously a very complicated issue, and I appreciate that. And yes, it is an amenity. It's a nice amenity for the city. There's no question about it. Liability, I don't have an answer to that one, but I do know that the city doesn't have any insurance, and we have to have a police department. We have to have a public works department. We have to have a city clerk's office. We don't have to have a golf course. There is a liability there. We could shut it down. That is a viable alternative if we determine the liability is not worth it. I'm not saying we want to do that, but this is the time to look at these things and not to just say, oh, well, if you did this, it would be impossible. Everyone's got their opinion. We don't have any facts. We need the staff to deliver facts to us in the form of some alternative proposals, and then we can look at it dispassionately and decide maybe the current situation is the best. I certainly don't know that. I would like to know what is the best option going forward.
I would like to say,
Hold on.
Same proposal like we got this one.
All right.
It's not.
And so
Hold on. Alderman McGee did us and the staff a favor going up and getting this. It's their job to go and get us some decent proposals, not his.
All right, I got Alderman Rita had her hand up, and I saw the golf course director, Vinny wants to speak. So Alderman Rita.
I just don't think that we should sell public asset. So a couple of my questions is, will this solve our equipment needs?
This isn't selling the asset, this is merely leasing the asset. We still own it, very similar to how McDonald's Corporation owns each and every McDonald's, but it's franchised out and it's family operated, each McDonald's business.
Okay, so, but I don't think that, I think we'll still be responsible as elected officials personally.
So
Because we're gonna still be, if they're leasing it, we're still
we
responsible.
would be in a
because we
position
don't.
of enterprise to the city of Blue Island. As you know, Blue Island drives the police cars, it's the same thing.
Okay, but would
Just
they,
as shoes on the other
would
foot.
they be responsible for the upkeep
Yes, they would be responsible for the maintenance.
and the infrastructure improvement?
Infrastructure improvement, we would be responsible for.
We would still be responsible for
Correct.
that. And then how would that solve our problems?
Again, we would then be in the black. We're guaranteed a certain income, and not only that, but these are professional companies that golf is their business. Golf is not our business, it's a side business, it's a side hustle for us. So, it's not our primary source. We are not professionals. We don't have a professional golf instructor out there. And from my understanding, I was told that only about 3% of Blue Island actually uses our golf course.
Where did you get that number?
From, what's his name? He just recently moved over to Parks.
Ted?
Ted Ruthenberg.
Yeah, Teddy Ruthenberg, correct. So, again, maybe a culture change would bring some more Blue Island people into use our facilities.
I
So
just,
we would still own it.
I'll-
Everyone asked me a good question.
No, I want to go in order. I'm trying to,
All right,
it's a committee meeting.
All right, that's right.
One of these discussions that I would love to be back at that table, Vinny had his hand up for a while there. I want to let him talk. And this is open discussion, so.
Yes.
So, Alderman Farrell, you wanted some specifics about ServiceScape, right? What they provide for us?
No, I didn't ask you that.
You just said that you wanted what they provided for us. Because this is what their proposal
No,
was.
I didn't say that. I said, we don't have enough information about anything. This is not the place, frankly, for us to have a down in the weeds discussion. We're way, way, way far away from that.
Right,
We
so
need proposals.
okay,
That's what we need.
so,
We don't have them.
but the proposal in front of us that Alderman McGee provided, also, as Mr. Wogan said last meeting, this is a proposal for 5 years, correct?
Correct.
We cannot enter an agreement for 5 years. It cannot
Then
be
we'll do a
passed.
shorter one.
I'm just reading the contract that's in front of me.
I don't like the
Yes.
fact that
So-
Alderman McGee has done us a big favor.
I
bringing this to us,
understand that,
you know,
and I-
we don't have
Alderman,
enough-
Alderman McGee brought the issue to the table. We are having open discussion here. We agreed at the last council that if we don't have a concrete solution, we're automatically approving the ServiceScape. I've agreed to put this on the agenda, even though it's not a concrete solution, because otherwise we will not have a golf course at all for next season. Just because I would like to hear the debate, as long as, I'm sure you do too. You want to hear both sides. So even though the motion we passed last council said if we don't have a concrete date, by the time the agenda comes out for this night, which we didn't get, it's a moot point at this point, but I'm opening up discussion because it's still
It's a
not
discussion
settled,
worth having.
right? We're not
It's a
settled.
discussion we're having.
So,
It's information.
And I mean, this discussion can continue on past us approving ServiceScape. I mean, we have, 4 more years as elected
no, and
officials
that's
here.
my point.
So,
We know ServiceScape, we
yes.
approve ServiceScape.
Yes.
But this is a conversation this is one conversation for probably ahead of multiple conversations. So I said, put on the agenda.
Yes,
But even your own recommendation, we didn't have enough information
correct,
to not approve ServiceScape at this point.
correct.
But we started the conversation. We have here, actually, we're at the end of the agenda. I'd rather get into this now because we've had meetings, we have some meetings in front of us. They're probably gonna last a lot longer. So if you get your point, of course, we can introduce Servicescape here, who is still our maintenance guy right now. We get the opinions on the table, and then we're gonna continue down the road, you know, right?
Sounds good, yeah.
So Vinny, go
So,
ahead, just let's talk about the Servicescape, talk about the golf course. in
So I
general.
would like to present, this is the president of Servicescape, his name is Clay Putnam. I would just like to have him speak for a little bit about what Servicescape provides for us and maybe a little bit more about.
I have a question before.
Yeah.
Could you tell me employees at the golf course, a rough figure, how many do you think live in Blue Island that are employees? Half, would you say?
Yeah.
Close to half employees. I mean, I know you had a very small staff this year and you guys worked
Yeah.
you have way more hours than you should have. But just out of curiosity, the employees that you did have this year,
Yeah, 50 to 60% of them, yeah. I mean, we only had
they live in Blue Island.
12 employees and we should have 30, but yeah.
Okay, that's why I was just curious.
This is Clay Putnam, president of Servicescape.
Thanks, Vinny. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
As Vinny mentioned, my name is Clay Putnam. I'm the president and owner of Servicescape. I am here tonight to obviously answer any questions that you may have, but also just to give you an idea of what it is that we do and how we partnered with the city really since 1997. And so Servicescape's been in the golf business since 1983. Obviously, it's what we do. It's what we've always done. My background is as a golf course superintendent. And so I'm very passionate about the business and actively involved. Regarding the staffing at the Meadows, Servicescape staffing, I would say approximately 50% of our staff as well is from the city of Blue Island. There's several things that make us unique compared to our competitors. First is we're a maintenance-only business, third-party contractor. We don't have any interest in the front end of the house. And the thing that makes us most unique is really the style of our contract. We have a pass-through style of contract. And what that means to the city is everything is literally 100% transparent. If a bag of fertilizer costs us $20, that's what we charge the city. There's absolutely zero markup to that. Same with labor, supplies, literally everything that we purchase on behalf of the city. And the way that that is transparent is whenever we send an invoice to the city, we attach all of our receipts from our vendors so that that can be audited. We also make our books as it relates to the Meadows available for audit one time a year. Another nice thing about that style of contract is at the end of the year, if there's monies left over in the operating budget for the maintenance, the city keeps that money. We don't see a dime of it. Full disclosure, the way that we make our money is we charge a management fee. We do have a unique structure built in specifically for the Meadows. No other contract of ours has this. And that is a credit that we provide back to the city every year in the amount of approximately $33,000. So the net payment that the city makes to Servicescape every year is approximately $38,000. The $33,000 that we credit back to the city is generally used to fund projects, capital improvements out on the golf course. In the years that we've been involved with the golf course, we have rebuilt the bunkers, rebuilt tees. We've completed countless drainage improvements out on the golf throughout the entirety of the golf course. We rebuilt the driving range, replaced the cart paths, and installed landscape around the parking lot and clubhouse. All in total, we've provided approximately $470,000 over those years to the city to fund those projects. I could go on and on about the benefits to this style of a contract, but I think those highlights that I've just provided provide some pretty good detail. As it relates to the potential lease, I've been in the business long enough to have seen what leases can and cannot provide for golf courses. The thing that I would caution the city on is even though the contractor is going to pay the city a lease fee, that lease is paid for through the funds that are generated at the golf course. It becomes an expense to the golf course. Currently, the golf course does not have that as an expense. Therefore, moving forward, if you were to go into a lease, that lease, the fees that the city is going to retain for or from that contractor is no longer going to be available to the golf course. So just keep that in mind. I can certainly answer any questions that you have, and I appreciate your time.
Yes. I have one quick question that kind of cuts to the heart of the matter, which is our agreement with you going forward. One thing we didn't determine at the last meeting was what was going to be the length of our agreement with service gate. So I just like to know what that is.
So the alderman had this question last time when we approved the contract. What would be we didn't,
It was the term was decreased to
Yeah.
3 years.
And is there an out for us on that? If we decide, that we, for whatever
Is there a
reason, want to
termination
terminate the
clause?
agreement, we do that.
So-
I don't recall. I have to look at the original.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
if let's say after next year, Alderman, I'm sorry, let's say after next year, during the course of next year, the alderman and the city council decide to privatize the golf course and give you notice a season ahead or something like that to get out of the clause. That's what they're concerned about.
So our contract is very easy. It's a 3-year contract. There's a 90-day out.
Okay, good.
That
Thank
was
you.
the question.
That's what I did. And my opinion is, and thank you very much for coming in tonight.
You're welcome.
And you made a good presentation, and you obviously know what you're talking about, so that's great. And I can see that we're going to need to go ahead with the lease and the fact that, or the agreement, and the fact that we have an opportunity to make changes down the road is comforting to me, because I think we want to continue looking at this. And again, your opinions are very helpful. I know you provide a good service to the city. The crew out there does a great job. No questions about any of that. But we do need to continue looking at this. I feel very strongly about it. I do want to see, comparisons on paper of various options that we can then sit down and decide, is this the best option, which maybe it is, or is there some other option that's better?
And Alderman, I think just what I paraphrase, didn't have time to pull it up from my records. I think pretty easy to get a lot of data real quick from when you take depreciation out, how much profit the golf course has made, X number of years. Those figures should be pretty easy to find.
All right.
And then I know the service-scape, you guys have been doing Fountain Hills for just as long, right?
We started at Fountain Hills in 2006.
Okay. I know,
And,
I was talking to
just-
the commissioners there, and they were extremely happy. So you maintain both the golf and the meadows at the same time.
Correct.
I would just conclude by saying that in the proposal here we have from Golf Visions, this is just one company, and they're handling like 8 or 9 other publicly held courses. There must be a reason, and I'd just like to know what it is.
Okay.
I just wanted to reiterate for anybody that the proposal that was received and then circulated was for 75,000, I believe. It's an escalated lease to around 85,000.
I just wanted to say, thank you for coming out. I do remember, I think Mr. Bedebeck used to run the course, and you came to a meeting that we were running at, I think I was municipal chair back then. And he wanted to do the greens himself. And you came out and explained the importance of service-scape, and here you are again. So thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out.
Oh, you're welcome.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
And the greens are maintained very well. There's
Thank you.
nothing against Servicescape, because you guys do a beautiful job. Just again, the management of the golf course, and it's a business, and we have to look at what's in the best interest of the city.
All right, Treasury.
Yeah, I just wanted, never recommend you formally, last time when you came in back there when video was wrong, but I just want to say, yeah, thanks for the maintenance that you guys do, but my question is, would you
you say it's a little bit more trickier to manage the meadows? I mean, you can't compare it to, like a Harborsiders or Ruffle Feathers or those types of fairways, but would you say that because this was built over,
Garbage dump.
disposal, garbage area, that with all that methane gas, would you say that it presents a lot of challenges to keep certain spots of the park?
So, you mentioned Harborside. We have a lot of history with Harborside as well. The Meadows, without a doubt, presents the most unique challenges that we've encountered for maintaining a golf course. Really for a couple of reasons. That it was a refuse location at one time. Drainage is a huge problem at the Meadows. We're all aware of the pumping station that's adjacent to the golf course. And when that system goes down, the entirety of the drainage that flows into that system backs up onto the golf course. We can have out on the golf course, methane will begin to appear in random locations. It can be in fairway number 3 one day, it can be fairway number 5 the next. And when that methane comes to the surface, it will have a detriment to the turf. So to answer your question, it's very unique, not only from the methane, but the refuse that's in the ground. And even on one side of the golf course is where an old brick factory used to reside. And we run into a lot of rubble over in that location.
Well, I know we certainly, because of how you're located, how you're situated, you want to also benefit the cost to operate the fairways, and plus with the credit, I'm sure that helps offset whatever fertilizer, whatever you have to do to maintain it. So just want to say thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Really quickly, are you aware of any other golf courses that have been built off of a garbage dump?
So Harborside is the closest that I can reference. 2/3 of the property at Harborside was built on top of a municipal sludge landfill. 1/3 was built on top of an old concrete rubble landfill. And so each side presents its unique challenges. Methane is a little bit of an issue at Harborside, but not to the extent that it is at Blue Island.
I don't want to go into the history, as everybody knows I'm a history guy here,
Okay,
of the
we're
Sexton
not the
properties
only ones,
and the reason why it's a golf course. And it's, the Little League field sunk into the ground, right? And they had to build a new one on top of it. So it's very not detrimental, what's it called? The landscape evolves and moves like a sand dune.
Sure.
That's the best way to describe it. Yes. And it's just, as when I was on the park board, when we were helping with the Little League field that was moved from 127th to old landfill land that's still owned by the city. Literally, they put a foundation in, came back the next day, the foundation sank down, and they put another one on top, and now the garage is falling over that they put on second foundation. So,
But there
a lot
are
of challenges.
there are others, right? And we're not unique in that fact.
Well,
I think we're unique in what was dumped at this one and the amount and how it was handled.
what's unique about the Meadows is the type of refuse that's in the ground. There's multiples. It's just not trash. It's just not concrete rubble. It's a combination of the both. And as I understand it, there were some challenges during the closure of the landfill, which has continued to rear issues for us even today.
All right, any other aldermen or comments or concerns for Cityscape?
No comments for Surfacecape. I'm done.
Good.
But I still would like to request for proposal. I mean, it couldn't hurt to have all of our options.
You feel free, and then at the same time, we'll be getting more documentation on the financial figures that we all need to see.
Which I could just,
That
just
would be
catch,
great.
make sure we're clear about one thing, not him feel free, our staff feel free.
No, we got to get the financials first before we should know what we have before we start to sell. Am I phrasing it correctly?
No, I don't understand.
All right, so I want to know how much we actually make in real terms over the last couple of years before I request proposals from other governments.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Can I just say for the record, the request was not ignored. when this conversation first began, we brought the proposal from ServiceCape, the 5-year proposal. That's what started this conversation. Coming out of that meeting, I had a conversation with Kemper Sports, which is one of the larger companies that does this. They did not, they simply took a pass for a number of reasons: liability, insurance, equipment conditions, etc. And it took, we have a lot going on, and that took some time to do that, to have that conversation. It gave me pause with my conversation with Kemper, which I did. I'll go back and find the minutes. I did bring that back to the council that specifically about Kemper. We had a discussion. It gave me pause, the tone of the conversation, that whether or not this deal is even feasible based on all the reasons that we discussed. So the request was not ignored.
Can those be provided to the council? Do you have them in writing? The reply, or at least the reason for declining?
It was a phone conversation, but I can contact them again and ask them if they're.
It'd just be good.
Yeah,
Good to be informed.
for sure. But yeah, just, and the other issue is, in terms of what was going to happen with this issue, the only other, shortly after my conversation with Kemper, we had frankly, some issues at the golf course with people showing up saying that they had been sent by the city council to investigate things, stealing golf carts, harassing the staff. And it became pretty clear that the tone of this particular debate was getting a little unwieldy. So it needed to be settled at the council level. So that was what the staff did and what we were responding to. In terms of how to handle this.
One provider?
I reached out to 2, only 1 got back to me.
All right, so Alderman McGee talked to 1 provider proposal, so obviously others will provide proposals, and we will be looking to you to, shepherd that effort for us.
Okay, I take my direction from the mayor's office. That's just to be clear.
We're gonna get our data and figure out where we can go next. I'm sure there's not, you would know, how many companies are out there roughly that do golf course management around the Chicagoland area?
In the Chicago area,
We've talked to at least 3, right? Alderman McGee's talked to 2. We've talked to, so at least 4.
half a dozen.
All right, so we just gotta kind of make a few more phone calls.
Yeah.
That's simple enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other Alderman concerns, comments? We don't have executive in this committee.
I just have one. So it's that time of year again. I forgot to mention it last night at council meeting. I'm going to be collecting cereal for an Angel's Touch. They reached out to me. My deadline is December 10th. I'm of course going to reach out to the police department. They've always been great. I will reach out to the fire department, and I need to talk to Rayanne for a drop off. So for right now, just getting the word out. And if anybody could please donate a box or 2 of your favorite cereal, it would be great. It's families helping families. Thank you.
Overall.
Yeah, I had a couple. The first is the establishing of a road fund. It did not make it on the agenda, but we are ready to move forward on a vote. Thank you to the city attorney for helping me prepare this. This would not in any way change the way in which we appropriate or spend for roads. This would be purely a way of granting greater transparency and accountability to how we do those things. So I'd like us to consider and then vote on establishing a road fund before the next appropriation. I don't know if we can provide the formal information in advance of the next council or.
Sure, I can do that, and then we can put it on the next agenda.
Okay. Second, go ahead.
I thought we had one.
With a line item right now.
Okay.
So
This is a more detailed version of the one.
So instead of putting it under public works, we put it under the road fund. And so when it comes time to just simply show how much we've appropriated, how much we've spent, especially year over year, it's much more simple.
Okay, thank you.
Easier to point to.
And then the second is, I've heard a lot from residents around Eisenhower regarding the new traffic pattern, a lot of concerns. My hope and my advice has been that over time, as people get used to the new pattern, things will smooth out. But I'd like to propose maybe a 4 to 6 month review where we solicit feedback from the Blue Island Police Department, from the district and from residents to just gauge the efficacy of the solution as it exists and maybe propose changes to it if it continues to be a problem for residents. That's all
It's not an issue. People I actually reached out to my office too. Probably the same people who reached out to me, Alderman. And I propose we very similar to what you said, and we can revisit in a few months, even if we have to have a public hearing of some kind. But yes, it's been a change of culture and I talked to the police chief about We have certain issues, hopefully we can help with that with the resident parking. I think we have to clarify, we found a couple loopholes we didn't do in the omnibus we passed. Maybe that will fix some of those issues, to make it easier for them to enforce the traffic issue.
Some people have called, over from Eisenhower, I've talked to them personally the last 2 days. And once I explained how they, make sure they have a vehicle sticker, and, they're worried about people that park in there that don't live there.
Yeah.
Or don't have a sticker. And I said that, and I explained that about the overnight, if you have a guest over, I explained all that to them. I explained if you see somebody that's not parked there or parked there, that it's not a resident, and you can always call, the police will come out and double check. So once I talked to them, they were happy with after I talked to them, so they were okay.
Yeah, it's great.
It was like 3, 4 phone calls in the last couple of days.
And hopefully it is just a matter of time, but
They're just curious.
yeah, it wouldn't hurt to do a formal review though, just to make sure.
Really quickly, I received the email from Bob Rita about the upcoming meeting. I'm pretty sure everyone received it as well. Mayor, you will be in attendance, correct? And so will I, and I encourage the rest of the council to be there as well. And hopefully, we can find some solution to these problems.
Main issue is they're bringing IDOT to the table and hearing concerns, hearing what they have to say. And as we all know, an engineer, which is going to be coming to the meeting, does the best job possibly of understanding our concerns. We're going to try to make them understand. Thank you.
Very good.
One other thing, we got a memo from Tom about the schedule of meetings for next year, which would be following the same schedule we have this year. I know Alderman Roll and I have talked about the fact that in some ways it seems like it might be more attractive. This meeting was held the previous week, the first Wednesday of the month. A couple of reasons. One, there's pluses and minuses, but this does make for a fairly busy week because we're putting 2 big things back to back. And secondly, having that meeting a week before city council would then seem like, we take care of things at committee of the whole that then could be worked on during the week by staff and brought to city council, as opposed to now we've got a 2 weeks. So I don't know whether there's any further interest in that, but I would be interested in knowing if others are interested in doing that.
One of the reasons why we put that together. So I think we agreed on that they how to compromise out of a long meeting. But I will take a look at the calendar again. I think it's something that I agree, and especially some months, it does fall that way just by natural way the calendar falls, but a majority of the time it seems to fall like this. So yeah, I'm not opposed to looking at that. We'd have to change the ordinance and make that tweak. Thank you. Any other Alderman concerns, questions, announcements? Not, we need a motion to adjourn. Motion Alderman Roll, second by Alderman Rita. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next meeting's the 23rd.